Hi, I'm Stacey.
And I'm Rox. And
We are the Sofa Detectives. Welcome back to this week's instalment of Mystery Musings. Warning! Warning! Just a quick warning for everyone's watching today. We discuss sensitive subjects and mature themes.
And we swear a lot, and this is some heavy shit. So this is the final part in the 3-part series on Emma Fillipoff, and this is kind of like a roundup. So let's just jump right into it. It's happening.
It is happening. I did that last time.
And now we're separated.
It was really weird because we were really close. That's why I was like, I feel like if I turn around,
can be seen now.
I'm going to be really close to you.
So we're just kind of wrapping up everything to do with the case and our thoughts.
Yes, our thought, and anything that we think of, as you know, we just do this on the fly. Anything that we thought of that maybe might be relevant that we haven't added, I guess. Do you want to tell me your thoughts first?
My thoughts are basically, I think it's just so difficult. I think it's so hard. It must be the most difficult thing in the world when you find out that you have a kid that you kind of, an adult child that you assumed was one sort of person, who probably was that person as well.
She probably was.
But then suddenly something happens and you end up then being privy to her journals. You're reading them and you're basically realising that you're reading the journals of a stranger. That must be devastating. Yeah. And also, you're reading that, and at the exact same time that you're reading that, you are reading that with the knowledge that she's missing. Like, I can't even begin to imagine. So that's one thought that I had.
That's one thought that you had.
The next thought was, without knowing how long a normal wellness check is on the part of the police, it did seem a bit weird to talk to someone for 45 minutes and then still not pursue any kind of like future communication with her. And I also think on the part of the police that if there's nothing to hide in their notes about that experience with her and that communication with her, for the sake of human decency and putting some sort of doubts to rest and actually giving her parents some form of closure, just about that, it's a real shame that they don't feel that they can really... It makes them look bad.
It does, and there's probably... It's probably nothing.
Yeah,
like,
it could be literally nothing. And I do understand that obviously some things are confidential, but we're not talking about...
data acts and laws, and obviously we don't know all of them. So there might be a reason, like the same reason that the shelter can't release any information.
It's weird because when I think about it, I think about the shelter side of it. To me, just seems more legitimate because they are protecting the interests of basically everyone who would be using that shelter, whereas the police are dealing with just this one small interview, this one small dealing. It's like, what?
Unless there is something that she said that they feel they need to protect her from,
or unless there's something that she said that they should have protected her from, but they failed to, and then she immediately went missing.
There's so many different.
We don't know. There's all the different possibilities. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts, like, I honestly go back and forth because I kept thinking to myself. Like, my first thoughts were that someone was stalking her and someone took her.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like, that's the darkest version.
More into it, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and the more I researched it, because obviously we don't just watch one documentary to then discuss.
Finished.
Because obviously you need more sides, more opinions, more facts before we start discussing it.
Because like we said in, I think it was the very first segment of this, that... one documentary can skew the case in one particular way, another documentary
because they can take it from a completely different angle.
Yeah, it's not that they're trying to make it look one way or another, it's that they're skewing it from a different angle.
Yeah, because their focus,
might not be anything to do with mental health.
Yeah, exactly, because a lot of people might be like, oh, the mental health is the most important thing, and then they don't discuss maybe the people as much, because they're like, oh, clearly it was a mental health issue and that's what's happened. So they kind of go down that track, or they're like, oh, it's definitely a stalker, and then it goes down that track, and then they don't really mention her mental health, and you're like, I think it's all of it. Like, I know that seems like a weird thing to say,
it's a tapestry, isn't it?
But I think possibly I have like a few theories.
Okay.
Right, so my first theory was that it was just mental health. Like, so from the first videos we'd watched and the things I'd read, I'm like, I honestly think she just made herself disappear.
Yeah.
Like, she decided she'd had enough.
She could be out there living under another name, or
she could have either had a mental break. She could have had a mental break and doesn't know who she is now. Like, because that happens a lot. It happens a lot. Or she had a mental break, wandered off into the wilderness, and unfortunately wasn't prepared for the elements and had like an accident.
Eaten by a bear, because Canada,
honestly,
bears.
like a bear could have dragged her off, and we're not going to find her now. Like, you may eventually find some bones, maybe, but also they have done some checks of the wilderness, but not all of it because it's vast.
Well, it's Canada, isn't it? Yeah.
So she could just be out there living in a log cabin.
Yeah.
And knows who she is. She could have had a mental break and doesn't know who she is. So, to begin with, when I was looking at all the things that were happening and that she'd decided to get a phone and like a prepaid credit card, I'm like, she's preparing to go somewhere. Like, not on the run because she's not really a wanted person.
No.
But she's decided to go because she wants to go.
Teach me how to disappear.
Yeah, exactly. She actually
asked man as well at the tackle shop, but he was like, "What? I don't know."
Yeah, why would I know that? I sell tackle for a living, and supplies.
I suppose she was predisposing that he maybe comes into contact with a lot of drifters,
or like. He was like maybe into wilderness, so maybe like was getting some tips on how to survive out there and things like that. Actually, that makes sense. I hadn't thought of it like that. So I purely just thought, do you know what? She's just had a mental breakdown, and I feel bad for her, and she's just gone off, and either something terrible has happened to her, or that she just doesn't want to come back and isn't.
And then she feels something terrible has happened to her in a previous life.
Of course, and she just wants to carry on. She could still be running. Like 8 years later, she could be. Staying in one place for a little while and then moving on because she doesn't want to be found.
And like you said, she already lived a very nomadic lifestyle.
Yeah, she did, so she was used to it.
So it's kind of an extension, it potentially is just an extension of that.
And then my second kind of thought line, once they started talking more about like the stalker, Julian, whether that's the same person or not.
Yeah. I mean, and then he was the stalker.
He was the original stalker, right?
He outright admitted.
He did admit it.
Oh, I don't think we mentioned before that her dad basically made him leave her life initially, whatever.
We probably should have mentioned that in people, but he did warn him off, didn't he?
He was like, fuck off, basically.
It worked for a little while, but obviously not
wasn't
to stop him from moving there. Obviously I don't think her dad could stop him from moving there. And that either the person stalking her hasn't hurt her, but them stalking her is what caused the mental break.
Yeah.
And that's why she wandered off. So either there's a stalker that's taking her, or the stalker pushed her over the edge and she ran.
Yeah.
But I still am no clearer. Like, I have these theories and I'm still no clearer as to which one. I can't say for definite. My thought is one way or the other.
I'm the same. I feel like the absolute heart of the case is her, like, I don't mean this to sound nasty, but her lack of mental health. Because I feel like that is the main... I think we said in the previous segment that there's no real main character apart from Emma. I think the other main character is her lack of mental health.
Yeah,
that plays such a huge part, because if she was more mentally stable, she wouldn't have behaved in certain ways. She wouldn't have been having interactions with her friends. She wouldn't have been living maybe quite... Not that people who live nomadic lifestyles are obviously mentally ill, but I think when you're doing that without shoes and you're exposed to the elements and you've got loads of money and you won't spend any on shelter and then suddenly...
Yeah, on protecting yourself. If you have money to protect yourself,
then use it.
Use it.
Yeah.
If you have a family and friend network,
use them.
Yeah. So, like, for example, if that was me, I know I'm not her.
No.
But obviously that's a weird thing to say. But for example, if I was going through hard times and I struggle with my mental health, you would reach out. I think, especially from a family that seems like loving and caring of her. Yeah. Like, there's no evidence to support or like suggest
that they didn't love her. They adored her.
It's like a great home, from everything we've seen and read, a great home to come from. And it's a shame that for some reason she didn't feel like she could lean on them.
Yeah.
And it's just heartbreaking that she didn't just reach out. Well, she reached out to her mum, but she kept pulling, like it was...
Pulling away.
Like a backwards and forwards thing. It's just a shame that she just didn't go home and got help.
It's so painful to just think of that little tiny 3-hour gap, because if you just think of like 3 hours,
that makes me feel sick.
It's just an afternoon, isn't it?
Like and it goes by, sorry, not fly, enough, so fast.
Was enough to, you know, enough for her mum to come into contact with her, convince her to come home, force her to go home if need be, or just stay with her for a while. You know what I mean? Like, book a hotel, make her come stay in the hotel with you, spend a few days together, and then when you realise there's a problem, then you deal with that then. And then just be like, why don't you come home for a holiday? Dad would love to see you. Like, I don't remember her brother and sister's names actually, but like, to imagine, like, Shelley must go through this in her mind. Like,
it must be tormenting.
Oh, it's just torturous just even thinking about it as like a person who knows really nothing, you know, about it.
Yeah, really, after all the information we've given you, we know nothing. Like, honestly, like, we know nothing.
To you guys.
You're watching us and we know nothing. No, but you know what I mean, like, or maybe you don't.
Well,
but like,
we're not part of her family.
It seems like a vast web of information, but there's a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here.
Everything is
not all of it ties together. Just like a little blip here and there.
I think because she didn't truly. It sounds like she didn't really allow people to get very close to her after whatever happened to her. That made her not want to be around men. But she was, prior to that, she was very social, but she was
social, but she was very private.
Always said she was always private. Like, they would never. I remember thinking that was a little bit odd,
even when she was young.
That when she was a little girl, she wouldn't confide in her parents really about anything, and like even when she was a teenager. I know obviously teenagers can be private,
do that, but like,
when she was a young teenager, when she's basically like, you know, she's a preteen essentially, and you're living in a house with your daughter, and she's offering you zero information about her.
I think that's incredibly strange.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
I really do.
Some people are more private, and as kids get older,
but it does seem strange.
Seems extreme
from a child's perspective that they were so private from so young. Like, I have a young daughter myself, and she literally tells me everything. Like, she probably doesn't have a filter because she's my kid, but like, you know, she probably overshares because, well, she came from me. But that aside, she's 5, almost 6, and she tells me everything, like, and she calls me her best friend, which is just adorable, by the way, and I want that to last forever. But anyway, we know it's not going to. So we know, like, when she gets old and she becomes a teenager, there are going to be things that
a level of privacy.
But I still would like to think, obviously, that's probably like,
I don't think it will be her entire life.
No, I don't think it would be so dramatic, right?
It was basically her whole life.
Yeah, she shared nothing, right?
Completely private, and nothing was really shared. And I guess that's probably why her family didn't think anything of her wanting to travel, move to the other side of the world, move to a different part of the country, not really be in touch that much, not have a mobile phone.
Yeah, because it was an alien,
it was within keeping of her personality. So that must be another kind of tormenting factor, you know.
Yeah, just because it seemed so normal for her, because they weren't in constant contact. But when she did contact them, there was no change. Like, the email seemed the same, like how jovial and bubbly she was in them was exactly the same. So there was no real indication that she needed help.
It really seemed like when the only time that things actually changed was when whatever happened to make her not want to be around men, that is when she started becoming super erratic. That was when her mental health went right down.
Yeah, like it just took a nosedive.
Jinx.
You and me a Coke.
That was when she was having conversations with her mother about, I don't know how I'm going to face you.
Yeah, and that was only in the very last few days before she disappeared. So from the 23rd until the 28th when she actually
So something happened
just
sort of
before, weeks before that.
And then it was in that period of time where shit just went downhill.
Yeah, she just dramatically changed, and it's just, we can't. Like, there's no direction. If I was on the case,
just out there, like, living, like you said, living her best life,
living her best life,
in the woods,
because that's what she wants to do.
And then wants one day to just, you know, contact and be like, I'm fine, don't worry, everything's fine, kind of thing. But it just so rarely happens like that.
It does, and it does happen. So we're hopeful, but we're also realistic. So we know that it might never happen, and it's a shame, and it's an interesting case.
I think when you do these sorts of things and you're watching these documentaries and you're reading stuff, you get so invested in.
Yeah, I would love to have been able
lives
to.
And the narrative of what actually happened,
Yeah.
and like. You can't help but just be an empathetic person and put yourself in like her shoes or her parents. Obviously you're never going to know how they feel, but you're sort of trying to kind of in your mind's eye, and you can't help but think like that.
Do you know, I really tried not to put myself in her mum's shoes. I have 2 children. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
Because I would get too emotionally involved then. Like I'm involved in the fact that I really do want to know what happened to her, and I hope there's going to be like breaks in the case soon, or like, because I think there's there's a new documentary coming out this year.
Or maybe we'll do a part 4.
Yeah, so maybe once we've watched that, I'm sure there's supposed to be something happening. I think they kind of bring out new searches, new documentaries, new information around the anniversary, so I'm hoping maybe by the end of the year.
Also, part 4 should definitely be on its way.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe we'll find out more information, because I would love to have watched all these documentaries and other YouTubers discussing the case and other people's blogs and be like, oh, I wonder if they've seen this aspect that I can tell them about, but there's nothing.
No.
But obviously, they probably would have seen it.
It's been exhausted, essentially.
Yeah, it really has.
So
I think we've exhausted it now too.
I think we have exhausted it as well. So
I want to say one last thing. There is that was aggressive.
Tell us.
I will tell you now. There's the Finding Emma Fillipoff like official Facebook.
Yeah.
There is a Finding Emma Fillipoff official website. So, like, by any chance have you seen this?
Link that,
and you know anything? This is a big reach.
Yeah.
If you know anything, have any tips, reach out to her mum or the team. Give them information, or follow the Facebook for further information, like any breaks in the case. So if you do know anything, or if Emma likes YouTube videos and she sees it, reach out.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Now we're like,
I feel like it was heavy. That was heavy, wasn't it? And we've really, really gone into quite a lot of depth on that one.
I think we had 3 parts of that.
But thank you guys for watching, and until next time, stay paranoid.